Devil May Cry is a title that I've definitely heard of before in all my decades of gaming, but I've never really delved into the series during said decades until earlier this year. That's right, earlier this year, Rycab Productions, the very good artist and animator, marathoned all the Devil May Cry games after getting them all from the Steam sales. Before then, some people thought it was strange how I had never really touched the series prior to that, with me having quite a firm grasp of the hack-and-slash game genre. Of course, with me being a huge Sonic fan, I had played Sonic Unleashed and the unnecessarily long Werehog levels within them. I enjoyed the Werehog levels for the most part, as pulling off combos in them is ridiculously satisfying, and the levels had a nice mixture of combat, platforming and puzzles. Seriously, it's like the only criticism the Werehog gameplay gets is that it's shoehorned into a Sonic game. No critiques on the actual gameplay itself or anything. Goddamn Sonic fans, I swear to God. There was also the Dante's Inferno game released by EA in 2010, which was a game adaptation of the poem by the same name, and the first third of the Divine Comedy written by Italian poet Dante Alighieri. I liked that game too, but it wasn't really anything special. It had some cool environments and art direction and some decent bosses, but it wasn't really that special. Devil May Cry is also partially inspired by the Dante's Inferno poem as well. But my real gateway drug into the genre was the Bayonetta series, an absolutely masterful trilogy of action games that provide some of the most fun I've ever had playing video games. From the iconic and ludicrously over-sexualized titular character, to the supporting cast, the art direction, the mechanics, the ridiculousness of it all, God, 14-year-old me ate this franchise up, man. Bayonetta 1 is a brutal game, but fun once you master it, although there is no defending those bullshit quick-time events. Bayonetta 2 improved on everything from the first game, and is one of the greatest games ever made, and 3 was a very solid conclusion to the trilogy, shaking up the formula in an interesting way, although the ending was pretty shit though, not gonna lie. The sheer happiness that I felt when playing Bayonetta 3 for the first time last year was unparalleled by anything else. The Bayonetta series takes heavy cues from the Devil May Cry series, and if it weren't for that, we wouldn't have gotten Bayonetta. So, in 2023, I sunk my teeth into the games to see what they were like, and oh boy howdy, it sure was an interesting ride. I played through Devil May Cry 1, 2, 3, 4, the reboot from 2013, and 5. And funnily enough, a YouTuber that I adore called Some Call Me Johnny did the exact same thing at roughly the same time, and having played the Bayonetta trilogy first, so great minds think alike, I guess. But he did review each one individually. So, it's time to slap on your red coat, blast some edgy male music from the 2000s, and
let's rock, baby.
Our first stop is Devil May Cry, originally released for the PlayStation 2 in 2001, directed by Hideki Kamiya, who also directed the Bayonetta trilogy, and this is the only Devil May Cry game that he directed before someone else took over. Wow, imagine birthing two amazing character action game franchises, man, like what an accomplishment. To put it briefly, the game is fun. It's aged quite a lot, but still fun in my opinion. Let's start with the plot. The main character of the whole series is Dante. He is the son of the legendary demon hunter named Sparda, which is all info dumped on you immediately as you start the game, and that name springs up everywhere in the series. He's a half-human, half-demon devil hunter who runs a business where he takes on freelance devil hunting gigs. He's got a cocky, arrogant and snarky demeanour about him, constantly cracking cheesy jokes and shit-talking bosses, but he also has a deep trauma from his past events. He's sitting in the shop when a mysterious blonde lady bursts through the front doors on a motorcycle, electrocutes him, stabs him, and tries to crush him with said motorcycle. But Dante's just like, nah, you ain't killing me that easily, and just shoots the fuck out of the motorcycle. The woman reveals herself as Trish, and asks Dante for help to stop a demonic god from resurrecting on an eerie, isolated island, so they both go to said island. Wait, so after electrocuting him, stabbing him, and trying to crush him with your motorbike, now you ask him for help? God, Trish, I hate to see what you'd do if you wanted help screwing in a light bulb, or help with your homework. Dad, I need you for something. What is it, honey? Can you help me with question 12, please? The game is quite uneventful until the end in terms of plot, so I'll talk about the gameplay now. The game is pretty fun to play and introduces the main aspects of the series well. The game mostly takes place in this unnerving, abandoned mansion on Malay Island with a claustrophobic and creepy atmosphere. Dante traverses his way through cramped corridors, constantly backtracks in and out of landmarks of the mansion, rides a ghostly pirate ship with these very disjointed underwater sections, and goes to the underworld, or hell, towards the climax of the game. As said, this is a hack and slash game, one of the most iconic and genre defining ones at that, but it's also a very basic one as well. Dante only has access to 2 weapons. Yes, he has multiple swords, but they all have the same movesets, and Alistar's the best anyway because he can go into Devil Trigger using that. The 2 main weapons are the aforementioned Alistar, being an electric charged sword, and Ifrit being powerful flaming gauntlets. And there's also a few range weapons as well, like his iconic ebony and ivory dual pistols, a shotgun, a rocket launcher, and a ricocheting laser weapon. And the needle gun, but that's only used in those shitty underwater sections. I don't know if it's the Bayonetta series that spoiled me or not, but the lack of variety began to bore me eventually, especially since the game's combat can be cheesed very easily if you know what you're doing. Just save up the red orbs you get by Alistar's air raid move and Ifrit's Inferno move, and you've practically beaten the whole game, Lamau. What I was not expecting was the confusing design of the game, as there's a lot of backtracking required. It's pretty much a Metroidvania in terms of its layout and structure. A large chunk of the game was finding one plot MacGuffin to access another part of the mansion, so you can find another plot MacGuffin which leads to another plot MacGuffin, and so on and so forth, and you get the point. Yes, I know that Devil May Cry was supposed to be a Resident Evil game originally, and Dante was going to be a character called Tony Redgrave, but that's also a franchise that I've never played a single game of, but I guess that shows in this game's design as well. One thing that surprised me a lot was the fact that you can just ignore many enemies and just choose not to fight them. Not a lot of the time, but most of the time you can just choose not to fight them. Now, as a Bayonetta fan, that felt so alien to me, as in that series you must fight every single enemy that you encounter, and that fight will then get ranked. You do get ranked at the end of every mission in this game, however, and the grades go from D being the lowest to S being the highest. Also, fun fact, the reason why the S rank is a thing in video games is because of the way that Japanese exam papers get graded, with S being the highest grade and equivalent to like an A+ or an A* grade. But I did pretty bad my first time round and only got 1 S rank out of pure luck. Overall, I did enjoy the game most of the way through, but I thought that there was a huge difficulty juxtaposition between the regular enemies and the boss fights. Most regular enemies were easy to kill apart from these motherfuckers, but the boss fights kicked my anus. The Phantom boss was a huge difficulty spike, as I had no idea that his head was his weak point at first, so I was initially stumped. The Griffin boss just straight up sucks. You can never get a good melee hit on him, and you can only really hurt him with range weapons which don't do much damage anyway, so just resort to using air raid. The Nightmare boss was a nightmare indeed, and Mundus was pretty forgettable, but nothing compares to how awesome the Nello Angelo fights were, man. These were tough but fair in my opinion. It truly feels like you're fighting your equal, and it was just a taster of better things to come down the line. I've been in this game twice, once on normal and once on hard, and the third fight with Nello Angelo was a roadblock on both playthroughs. Speaking of juxtapositions, the music in this game is stellar. There's the haunting and spine-chilling ambient music that plays when there's no action going on, which makes you feel trapped and in peril. But when enemies show up, this kick-ass rock music starts blasting all over the place. And gears you up ready for battle, unless you're fighting these things, which make you want to battle your depression. Then there are these secret missions scattered throughout the game that are kind of like those Alpine fights from the Bayonetta series where you must do specific challenges in order to get blue orbs which increase your health. These are hard to find though, and after looking at guides to see where they can be accessed, I was thinking to myself, how the hell is anyone supposed to figure that out? Hell, I only found one secret mission by complete accident on my first playthrough. The game still does look pretty good to this day. I'm playing this game on the HD collection, which released on Steam, and it's all upscale and everything, so it looks really good. It may have aged in a few areas, but still looks nice, but the voice acting is, not good.
Whoa, slow down, babe.
So, you must be the handyman who'll take any dirty job.
Finally! I was getting tired of playing your childish games. In the name of my father, I will kill Mundus.
Your presence has become a hindrance to my master's bloody scheme. Now die!
How much longer are you going to keep sapping? Come out and show yourself, Mundus! I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light! Let's not forget, though, the Underworld's evil is still alive. They will someday return.
But I'll give them credit, it's so bad that it is good and didn't detract from the overall quality of the game. Also, why the hell does Dante sound high in the intro cutscene when he says, "Whoa, slow down, babe"?
Whoa, slow down, babe.
Hey, we should totally have sex after we kill this Mundus guy, but you do look an awful lot like my dead mother, so that might make it a little awkward, but never mind. So it turns out that Trish was a creation of Mundus, designed intentionally to look like his dead mother to entice him to the island so that he could witness his mighty resurrection, and so that Mundus could kill him as well. But bringing Dante along to him does backfire on him though, and it makes you wonder why he even bothered doing that in the first place. Additionally, it turns out that the Nello Angelo boss was actually his long-lost twin brother, Virgil, who tried to fight Mundus in the Underworld long ago, but lost, and as a result he became mind-controlled by him. But naturally, using his father's sword that he got from Nello Angelo, he vanquished Mundus and says his famous catchphrase,
Jackpot.
But when it seems that all is lost and they have no way to escape the crumbling island, the biplane that you pass at the very beginning of the game crashes down through the ceiling, and both he and Trish fly off of the island and the island blows the fuck up. Wow, now that is a Chekhov's gun if I've ever seen one. With Mundus defeated, the two of them team up to do more devil hunting gigs together.
We'll be right there. This one has the password. Sounds heavy.
Okay. Let's get it over with in 10 minutes. Can't let a single one of those suckers live.
5 minutes.
More than enough.
So the first Devil May Cry game impressed me a lot. It's got a great atmosphere and sense of art direction, and I liked the simplistic combat despite what I claimed earlier. You know you've made a good action game when you have to actively change up your tactics for different enemy types. God, I love that. It's only a short game, clocking about 5 hours long, and you can't go back to replay any missions. If you want to do that, then you have to either reload a save file or play the whole game again. And I fell in love with the characters instantly. The controls were janky and they had some frustrating parts, but the pros definitely outweighed the cons here. And I couldn't wait to see my Devil May Cry journey get better.
Are you sure about that?
So here it is, the infamous Devil May Cry 2, which was released in 2003, also for the PlayStation 2. I've heard an awful lot about this game's negative reputation, and was aware that a lot of Devil May Cry fans just tell you to flat out skip this one, but I didn't do that, and in fact I actually beat this game twice, both as Dante and this newcomer character, Lucia, and oh boy, it sure was an experience. Well, let's go over the plot and see what's changed, have we? Dante's back and looking absolutely fire. I mean, that design for him is immaculate and beautiful. No homo. And he barely says anything in this game. Yeah, he's pretty much a mute for the entire game, and I have no idea why this is the case, until researching about the plethora of behind the scenes issues that this game had, but we'll return to that later. He's a completely different character. He has the screen presence, yes, but his smug and cocky charm is gone in favour of, or disfavour of, this.
You called? You knew him? Looks like it's your lucky day. Did you find what you were looking for?
Yes. Now we can stop Arius's ambition.
Whatever.
Well, what have we here?
Do you have to ask? Don't worry. I've got you. My job is hunting devils. Yeah, let's go all the way to hell.
Maybe this is actually the secret third son of Sparta, who's a mixture of Dante and Virgil. Dirgil? Or Vante? Both sound shit. He also flips a coin to make decisions now. So he watched The Dark Knight once and identified with Two-Face, now does the exact same thing. And just like Two-Face in The Dark Knight, the coin is double-sided. I have no clue where this came from, and thankfully it's a quirk that's only exclusive to this game. He's on the island of Devilmaycry because he got word that an evil conglomerate businessman named Arius is about to resurrect an old demonic god named Argosax, of whom Sparta sealed away long ago, and absorb his powers in the process, which is gonna happen a lot in this series. Dante and Lucia agreed to team up to find some plot devices to stop said resurrection, and so on and so forth. Lucia was one of his secretaries who was defected and found and raised by the protectors of the island, and has an identity crisis halfway through the game once she finds out that she's actually an artificially created demon made by Arius. Now, the actual plot of this game, when read off the DMC wiki, does sound like a decent plot, but is it presented well in the game? No. Absolutely not. This game is an utter mess from start to finish in terms of its presentation. The whole game is void of personality, and the characters just jump from location to location, sometimes without any explanation whatsoever. And this, Asian Count Dracula here has nothing going for him, and goes completely apeshit crazy at the end for whatever reason.
Now, I'll absorb his power. I will become an all-powerful immortal!
But hey, at least this game gives us this wonderful cutscene because of Arius' out-of-nowhere craziness and Dante's out-of-nowhere monotony.
My dream! My life! I was going to be the king of this world!
King? Yeah. Here's your crown.
Now that was fucking awesome. Best moment in this game. The game's plot is actually split into being told from two perspectives, those being Dante's and Lucia's. And you know what? I miss when games did this type of storytelling. Of course, the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise used to do this, with both adventure games being prime examples of how this can be done excellently. I want this type of game storytelling back, and that's one praise I can give this game at least. Another good thing I can say about this game is that Lucia's campaign is significantly better than Dante's one, mostly because it's mercifully shorter. I mean, I beat her whole campaign in one sitting, but also because her gameplay is slightly more tolerable to play and she doesn't have to encounter this thing. But it's a video game at the end of the day, and what's the most important part of a game? That's right, the gameplay and interactivity, and this game has none of that. They aimed to make Devil May Cry 2 much larger and epic than the first, and they kind of succeeded in that regard. The worlds are indeed much larger, and the non-linear progression from the first game is gone, but you need elements to make that large space fun. And what are they populated with? Long roads of empty nothingness, the occasional blue orb fragments, and enemies that have awful AI. The combat here is somehow a step down from the first game, where that had intricate combos you can pull off despite being quite basic, and you had to adjust your tactics to beat certain enemies in boss fights. But here, Dante only has one combo he can pull off, and his guns are overpowered as hell. Devil Trigger is even more broken here than it was in the first game, and don't even bother using any guns other than Ebony and Ivory, as they can tear through absolutely anything. Some enemies only require you to use your firearms, like this fucking thing right here. Like, what were they thinking? This is one of the dullest and worst boss fights I've ever played in any video game, and I checked online to see if what I was doing was right or if I was doing something wrong, but no. You do really have to keep shooting this infested chopper for 5 minutes straight while it barely attacks you, and your fingers will hurt afterwards, I guarantee that. I honestly wanted to quit after this boss fight, but I was just saying to myself, come on man, hang in there. This is a marathon, and I will never forgive myself for not completing this, and surely it can't get any worse from here on out, and you know what, I was right. The whole game is a cakewalk from start to finish, and a prime example of how not to make a character action hack and slash game. It's unappealing, boring, frustrating, poorly designed, and awkward as hell. I mean, I kind of feel proud of myself for beating this game on both campaigns. I mean, I did watch all 10 episodes of Netflix's live-action Cowboy Bebop adaptation in 2021, and people think that I'm nuts for doing that, but this could easily usurp that title. The game does have its upsides, however. Lucia, as I stated earlier, is much more fun to play as than Dante, using her agile frame to her advantage and having a shorter campaign than him, with her campaign being 13 missions long, as opposed to Dante's 18 missions, and the final boss, the Despair Embodied, was actually pretty good, probably because it's the only boss fight in the game that you actually have to put effort into. Lucia as a character was kind of interesting, despite the fact that her voice sounds pretty off.
But, actually, I do not deserve this power.
Kill me!
You fool! Everyone is destined to die.
Plus, the soundtrack in this game slaps. Also, I have to mention the warning signal that you hear in the mission where you have to escape the oil rig in time, because it's the most laziest and half-assed warning signal I've ever heard, and I couldn't stop myself from laughing at it when I heard it for the first time.
Caution. Warning. Caution. Warning. Caution. Warning.
Oh no. Watch out. You're gonna die. You're gonna get blown up. Every single atom in your body's gonna get disintegrated. Oh no. But with all that being said, I actually didn't despise Devil May Cry 2, and having researched its hellish development history, I can't help but feel sorry for it. The game's poor quality is the result of a greedy company who just wanted to rush out a sequel to a successful game without consulting the original director first. Games development is an extremely stressful and difficult thing to do, and all those people who claim that it isn't are extremely ignorant and have never actually attempted it themselves. What made them think it was acceptable to release this game in this state? I mean, it's not buggy or anything, it's just incomplete and soulless. This game is fascinating. You can talk about its issues until the sun expands, and some would argue that if you can talk about a piece of media or discuss it for years or decades after its release, then it's done a good job. For example, you can talk about Batman and Robin way more than you can talk about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Onion Rings. And similar to Batman and Robin, this game is also important to the franchise, as it establishes many features that will be expanded upon in future games and isn't entirely forgotten by Capcom. Devil May Cry 2 was one hell of an experience, but we can finally move on now. Join me next time for the game everyone considers to be the pinnacle of the series, and the game with Lelouch in it. Yeah, sorry, I was planning on reviewing all 6 games in one video, but it's just way too big of a task for me and I prefer to segment it. The script alone is almost the same length as the Green Lantern the Animated Series one, but stay tuned viewers, don't forget to subscribe or else Trish will burst through your front doors on a motorcycle, electrocute you, stab you, and then try to crush you to death with said motorcycle. Goodbye.